On today's live build, we're going to be building out various different chat functionalities. There are many different use cases for the chat. We're going to have a group chat where basically everyone can see everything. We're going to have a private one-to-one chat where people can kind of direct message each other. And if we have time, we're going to set up an AI chat where you can talk to an AI that you can configure in any way you want. And that is also private between you and the AI. And it has history, so it has a historical record of your previous conversation. So it has context as you're going through the chat. So many different chat scenarios that we're going to be building. And as we go, if anybody has questions, you can just raise your hand and Natalia will let me know. Otherwise, we can get into it. There's no point wasting time. So let's jump in. So I'm going to share my screen. And I'll just zoom in a bit. So I may have to zoom out because the way I'm going to set it up, we're going to have a sidebar and the chat on the right. So I might not be able to zoom right in, but at any point, if anybody can't see anything, just let me know and I can explain it or zoom in temporarily and then come back out. All right, so first things first, let's create just a general chat, right? This can be a kind of a discussion feed where people are chatting about various different things. And to do that is actually quite straightforward. If you go to the top left, and this is, by the way, this is just a blank app. There's nothing in this app at the moment. All we have is a contacts table, which is really just the user table. And we just have a bunch of dummy users. So we're going to be switching between me and different users to show the various private chats and that sort of stuff. But that's all we have, just a blank app. And the easiest way to get started with chat is to just click the plus button here to add a page. But instead of adding one of these, we're going to add a sample screen. And we're just going to click this chat button because what it's going to do is it's actually just going to create a table for us called chat. So if I create this, it's added a page, it's added a table, and it's configured that chat. So what I'm going to do is, since we don't need this page, I can just delete that. The source of this can be the comments page, that's fine. And this is going to be the group chat. So all it's done here is it's added a page and it's added a table called comments. And we can just leave that as is. What we're going to do is just add a row ID. We don't necessarily need it in this first use case, but it's always good to add a row ID to any table you're creating because you never know when you'll want to use that. So pretty straightforward. All we have here is they've preloaded it with one row, which is one message, and this message is just explaining how to set things up. So what we have to do is basically just set up the save data to save the information of the person who is submitting that chat. So if I go here on the right-hand side, maybe I can zoom in just for now and make this a little bit smaller. So basically the display data, it's going to say, okay, for the text, what do you want to display as the message? And we're going to select message. It's kind of pre-selected this. The timestamp will be the time column. The author will be the user photo. Author name will be the username. And author email will be the user email. So when we're looking at the chat, this is going to be the user photo, the timestamp, the name, etc. And these are just the columns that were created by default on the back end. So if we jump back to the layout, it's saying, okay, this is what we're going to use to display the messages. But when someone's submitting a message, we need to save certain pieces of information, like what their email was, what their name was, etc. So we can just select from here. The user email, when someone's submitting, is obviously going to be the user profile of the person that's using the app, their email. And for the name, we're going to use the user profile name. And for the photo, we're going to use the user profile photo. Now, we could tweak this in the future to actually just perform a lookup. So we could submit, for example, the user ID. And then instead of having to actually save and re-paste the image, the name, the email, we can just look that up if we have the user ID. But for now, we'll just keep it simple like this. And at the moment, we don't really need to change anything else, because if I come here and I say, hello, everyone, it's Marco. Okay, so it's saved that. And if we go to, and it won't show my image because it's me talking, but if we go to the data and I delete this example message, and then we go back to the layout, you can see I've submitted a chat into this group chat. And if I jump to another user, I jump to Bobby, Bobby can see my image, my text, when I posted it. And so he can say, hey, Marco. Whoa. Okay, it's refreshing. Okay, let's try that again. Hey, Marco, it's Bobby. Okay, because I'm viewing this as Bobby. So it has access to the information from my user profile, Bobby's user profile. And when I click submit, it's going to say, hey, Marco, it's Bobby. So you can obviously change the way this is displaying. We can make it in ascending, descending, whatever you want. So that was the first chat. This is the second. And then if I switch to Elena, hey guys, it's Elena, if I can spell. Okay, so we've got Elena Smith, Bobby Darrett, me. We're all in this group chat, and this is just one big table for the group chat. So that very, very simple to set up. You just add the chat component, and then we don't set any restrictions on who can view what. Now, let's jump onto the private one-to-one chat. And this is where we start getting a little bit more complex in terms of how we're displaying the information and who can see what. So we could create a new table. But if you wanted to keep all of the chat messages in one table, we can just edit this table here. So what do you think? Should we do another table? It doesn't really matter, because even the one-to-one chats, even though they're unique, they're still going to be chats, all different chats in one table. So we may as well just edit this and use that. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to add a column, and I'm going to call this chatting to. Okay, so if I've sent a message, who am I chatting to? Now, if it's blank, if I'm not chatting to anyone specifically, it's going to show up on that main group feed. But if I am chatting to someone specific, we need to make sure that we're filtering. So I'm just going to say chatting to, and we can make this an email, even though it doesn't really matter. It's just a text field. So all I've done now, to begin creating this one-to-one private chat, I've added a column called chatting to. So back on the layout page, this chat here, we only want messages where chatting to is empty, right? Because if someone sends a message and they're chatting to someone specifically, we don't want to show it. So we're just going to say, okay, well, since this is the group one, that chatting to is not going to be specified. So let's just show everything. So if I change to someone else, Christina Bright, it's still going to show, hi everyone, it's Christina. And if we have a look in the options here, we're not specifying who we're chatting to. So I'm just going to press send and it'll appear here. Now we don't need anything to happen on submission. We can just leave it like that. Okay. So this is the group chat. Now what we want to do is begin creating the private chat. So I'm going to add another page. It'll be a blank screen. And I'm going to call this page the group chat. And this page I'm going to call private chats. And do we have like a little, what's a good, there we go, private chats. So we've got private chats.
Maybe you can use those like 2 people. I don't know, for the group
for the
chat.
Group. Yeah.
And 1 person for the private. I don't know. Does it make sense?
Sure, that makes sense. Group chat, private chats. So what I'm going to do now is set up a container, and I'm going to make this container 1 to 2, because on the left-hand side of the container, I want a nice list of all the other people in the app, and on the right-hand side, I want the actual chat. So I'm going to add a 1 to 2 container. In the left-hand side, we'll add a table. And I'm just going to zoom out slightly. Let me know if this is too small, I can zoom back in, but it just gives it a bit more breathing space on the interface.
It's okay for me. Shirin also have a question.
Yeah, sure.
She's asking, like, if she has several courses and each course have their own community chat and private chat, can it be done?
Yeah, absolutely. All you would have to do is on submission of the chat message, you would just specify, for example, if you're on a certain page, if you're on a certain course, the course will have an ID. And so you can add a column to the chat table that says course ID. And then on submission, you make sure that that course ID is being submitted with the message. And then you filter using just the options filter. You just filter to make sure the course ID matches the current page course ID. And that'll make sense as I'm building this out. And if you have more questions, I can address them as I go. But basically, right now, I'm going to be providing one extra piece of information, which is who I'm chatting to. But if it was on a course, instead of who I'm chatting to, you could put what course I'm currently submitting the group chat on. So hopefully that makes sense. And if not, we can dive into that a little bit further. But what we're going to do is I'm just going to set this container so everything's aligned to the top. And what I'm going to do here is I don't want to be adding users. I don't really want to edit users. All I want to do is set some column values to specify at this moment in time, who am I chatting to? What chat do I want to view? So I'm going to go back to the data table, and in the user table, I'm just going to add a column here called chat. We can say chatting to, and I'll just make this an email column for now. And I'm just going to, should always, even if it's just a quick, live build, you should always be naming your columns and grouping them, right? So if you want to group them, a lot of you know this already, but you put a / and whatever is before the / is the name of the group, right? So these are all part of the user, and this is the chat. So it just gives your data It's just better, basically, in terms of data management and back-end cleanliness, I guess. So now we've added this column. It's ready to receive some information. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, when someone clicks one of these users, I'm going to set some column values. And the values that I'm going to set is basically who I'm chatting to. So if I click Christina Bright, I want Christina Bright's email to be added to my user profile value. Okay? And what we can do is we can display that. I'll just use a little text. We can display that so we know who we're chatting to. So I'm going to make this, from my user profile, I'm going to set the value of this text box to the email of the person I'm chatting to. And at the moment, I haven't clicked anyone, right? So it's empty. But if I click Derek, we should see Derek's email. Don't know why that didn't pop up. User profile, chatting to. Oh, I'm viewing as Christina? Why is that happening? Maybe I'm setting the wrong value. Hang on. No, okay. I set it for the wrong thing. Instead of for this item, we want to set it to our user profile. So that's all that was happening. But we want to set the same value. So my if I'm currently Christina and I click Derek, it'll say, okay, you're now chatting to Derek. So I'm just going to go back and clear that value. So if I'm currently Christina, I'm chatting to the other Christina. Her email is here. If I'm chatting to Bobby, his email's here. I'm chatting to Alina, her email. So all I'm doing when I'm clicking these buttons is updating Christina's profile row, or whoever's using the app currently, with the email of the person I want to chat to. So that's the first thing. And then if we go to the right-hand side, now we're going to add another chat component. I'm going to add this chat component. And the source of this chat is going to be the comments table. And you can see now, it's still got the group chat, because it's kind of lumped everything in. I'm just going to do a bit of formatting here. So it's kind of lumped in all of the chat messages, but we don't want that. What we want is just private chat between people. So I'll switch to myself, and you can see that even though I'm not chatting to anyone, this is still viewing. But if I click Alina, just the same thing, right? So the first thing we want to do is also make sure that in this user profile collection, we're not seeing ourselves. So I'm going to filter it and make sure the user email of the users in this collection is not my user profile email, because we don't really want to chat to ourselves. We just want to filter ourselves out of this list. And so now we've got all of the other users. But at the moment when I'm clicking this, nothing changes over here, right? We can still see the group chat, which we don't want. So what I'm going to do in the data, in comments table, I'm going to add another column. And this is going to be called the chat ID. Okay. And I'm just going to put in some groups here. This will be author, message, time, this will be author, name, and the author's photo. So we've got some information about the author, the person who's actually submitted that chat. We've got, if it's specified, who this chat is to, and then we've got an ID. And this is actually, sorry, this should be a template column. And the reason we want a template column is because this is a private one-to-one chat. So there's always going to be 2 emails of the people involved. So here we're going to say, I'll use some proper templating. So this is going to be the author, and then we're going to put a comma, and this is going to be the recipient. So who's receiving this message. And I'm going to replace the author with the author's email. And you can use row IDs. It's probably more accurate to use row IDs, but either way works at this point in time because the emails are also a unique value. And the recipient is going to be replaced by chat, who we're chatting to, right? So I'll just delete this column that we don't need. So we've added this, which is who we're chatting to, and then we've added this that's going to combine whatever email is here with whatever email is here. So we go back to the layout, and if I click Alan, right? I'm currently Marco, and I'm going to chat to Alan. So his email is here. When I submit a message, I'm going to set these values. So the author time is just the current time. The author email is my user profile email. The author name is my user profile name. The author photo, again, is just the user profile image. And now we're going to specify who we're chatting to. And because I've clicked Alan, and this value is now in my user profile row, I can just set this as who I'm chatting to. So you can see, and for now I'm just going to show nothing. And the chat I can just sort by the timestamp ascending. I think that's what the other one is. Now, when I chat and I say, hi, Alan, this is supposed to be a private message. Okay? If we have a look here, nothing's filtered. In the group chat, you won't see that message, right? Because if you remember, we said, well, we only want to show messages here where chatting to is empty. And because I just set that value to chatting to just now, it's not going to appear here. But it's still appearing here, and we're still seeing everything. So what I want to do is I want to apply another filter. So in the options, here we want to set some filters, and we want to say the chat ID includes user profile, user email, and the chat ID includes the user profile, chatting to. Okay, so all we're saying is, if I'm chatting to Alan, I want to make sure that this chat ID has my email and his email. If I'm chatting to Derek, I want to make sure that the chat has my email and Derek's email. And you can see here that there are no records that have both my email and Derek's email. But if I switch to Alan, we have the chat with Alan. So if I'm going to switch to Alan, and his email, his user email is included. And when he's viewing me, he can see it. So he can say, hi, Marco, thanks for the message. Right? And if I switch to Christina, there's no chats with Christina yet, no chats with Derek, no chats with Bobby, and no chats with Christina, the other Christina. So now we have configured a one-to-one chat. right? This is fully functional, and we can see that if we go to Alina has not started a chat with anyone yet. But if we go to the group, then we can see the group. So that's the two first use cases. We have a group chat and we have a private one-to-one chat, and they're both being filtered, and it's mostly based on that chatting to and the template column. In the group chat, if we're not specifying who we're chatting to, it goes to the group chat. In the private chat, we've got our author email and our chatting to email. We're combining them into just a joined list with a comma. And then we're saying, okay, we only want to show right here if the author's email and the person I'm talking to, the person I've clicked on, is included in that joined list. So before we move on to the AI, does anybody have any questions? Hopefully that was clear and I explained it enough so that people are understanding.
That was really awesome, and you did it all under 25 minutes.
Beautiful, beautiful. So
Shirin raised the hand.
Shirin has a question.
Hi. I have a question. So to create a private chat, you didn't use any array or any action? No?
It's just filtering.
It's just filtering.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. And the reason I like it is because the filter is based on who we click. So all we're doing here, these users, when we click a user, it's just getting their email and putting it into my user profile row to say who I'm chatting to. And because we have that information, we have my email and whoever I'm chatting to, we can just set up those filters to make sure that the person I'm chatting to and my email is included in this chat ID. So it's really the only difference between the group chat and a private chat is a value here and making sure that whoever I'm chatting to and my own email are included in this. And this is going to be dynamic. You'll see this will change every time I click someone. It's changing. That template column is changing because I'm changing who I'm chatting to in terms of what it's filtering. So this is the easiest way to get both group chat and private chat up and running. And yeah, it simplifies the process quite a bit. I don't know of any problems with the way I've set it up.
No, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. As I mentioned before, if I have two group and each group is for own they share same course. So basically I have to create the one chat for each course, or no? We can have one chat for everyone and just specify in the course ID?
Yes, exactly. So what you could do is, for example, in the comments table, you can add a course ID column. Okay, so this is the course ID. And then let's say that they are on that course page. If they're on that course page, you would specify here the ID of the course. So they've clicked onto the course, and you can either add the ID when they click to the user profile, so you can access it and submit it in the chat. But basically, we've added this course ID column. If they are viewing a certain course, all we need to do is, let's say like this is, course ID is 123. So I'll just add, actually this might be weird because I'm in the private chat, but basically you would submit the course ID as you submit the messages. And then in the filter, you would you would add a filter that says the course ID is this screen's ID. So it would filter only to, if you're viewing course ABC and people are submitting chats on that page, ABC will be submitted as the course ID. So then you just want to filter to make sure that the current screen ID matches the course ID of the chat messages. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Cool.
Thank you.
Awesome. So we've set all this up. Now what we're going to do is set up something.
Can you spare us a couple more minutes? We have 2 more questions in the chat.
Sure. We're pretty good on time. So
Good. Doris was asking, can you send a chat to someone inside the group chat, calling out their name or email?
I don't know. You definitely could. It would take a little bit more tweaking, but what you could do, you could have some if then else kind of. Because what like the beauty of this chat is that these comments here. Let's go to the group chat. So this is the group chat. The beauty of this is that after submit, we can do certain things. So we can say, we can just add an action, a random action. And you can say, if the message includes, I don't know, some sort of @ symbol, or email. It depends how you would show the notification. Like, if it's a group chat, how could you call them out? What did you have in mind? Like they receive an email, or they receive some sort of like notification, or
yes, some sort of notification, because you want to keep it in the group chat so everyone sees the information, but you're calling out an action that might be particular to this person, saying this, like at Marco, please confirm that something was done.
Okay. I'm sure that's
just
possible.
being able to create a higher visibility so that it doesn't get lost that that message was for that particular person.
Yeah. Well, okay. We'll just run a quick experiment. Let's say I'm currently using this as Marco, and then we would have to know their emails, but let's just say I'm going to call out Bobby. I can say, hey, at Bobby, can you please do this thing? So it's got the mail to, which is fine. But what I was thinking is, okay, why don't we just in the user table, why don't we just create a query where we're querying the comments table and we're filtering the message if it includes this row's user email. And then we can call this chat mentions. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a column to the right, and I'm going to say, if it's red or not. I haven't done this, but I'm just experimenting, so this could totally flop, but it's worth playing around.
But at least it's
So-
already found your message that someone got mentioned here.
Yeah. Well,
So you just
this
need to
is-
somehow display it, like maybe create a separate table with mentions or.
Well, we don't even need to. We can just call this mentions, and we can have it like like something like that, mentions, and we can add a list, and it's going to be the mentions. And if I'm Bobby, I should see the mentions. The title will be the author name, let's say, and then the description will be the message. And the image can be the, author photo. So why isn't that showing? That should be showing. I'm viewing as Bobby. User profile chat mentions. Okay. So mentions. And then when we click this, we can do a custom action. So we can go to a tab, which is the group chat. We can set some column values, and we can just say that, yes, this is red. Okay, so we're setting that red value as true, and then in the data, I'm going to add one more filter to make sure that the chat red is not checked. So now this should actually work. I'm Bobby. I just received a mention from Marco. When I click this, it takes me here, and then when I go back to the mentions, it's not visible because there's no mentions. So what we can say here, no unread mentions. And we can just do tick, and we can make it success, and that's fine. So in the group chat, we can test it again. I'm Bobby. I can mention Marco. So I'll just say, hey, we don't need the @ all it's looking for is the email, so it doesn't really matter. In fact, I can just say, hey, Marco at loadcode.com, can you please do XYZ? I send that. Now, if I switch to Marco, in my mentions, I've got a mention from Bobby. So this hint, we only want to show this when my mentions is empty. So actually this should be user profile chat mentions is empty. So Bobby Darrett mentioned me. This actually works really well. I'm surprised it just came together. If we just click this, it takes me to the chat, and I go back to the mentions, and there's no mentions. So that's quite
pretty cool addition. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Scott Simmons is asking, how do you sort the names on the left in the chat?
You can sort it alphabetically. So if we go to private chat, I can go to collection, and then I can go options, sort by user name ascending. So now we've got the usernames ascending, and we've got a group chat, and we've got mentions. So you could really expand on this in terms of the mentions, because what we could do is we could just broaden the filter. So if I just broaden what we allow in here, we would have to do 2 queries, but that's fine. But we could say, for example, the author message includes the email, or the author message includes their name, or the author message includes blah, blah, blah. And so we could really expand what gets revealed in our mentions. So what we would just have to set a separate one though, because if I say, or the chat message includes this row's user name, in this case it's going to be the full name. But then what we would have to do is we would have to add a column to the right, and we would have to perform. Actually, we could, what we could do is we could just perform a relation. No, it needs to be query. Okay. And we can query that chat, and we can just make sure that red is not checked. So this is unread mentions. Actually, this should be chat / unread mentions. So here, this is all mentions, right? We're getting all of the mentions. So this is picking up if there's Bobby's or like the user's email or their name, or you could create a username like @Bobby or whatever. And so this is catching all of the mentions. And then here is the unread mentions. So back here in the mentions, we want to change this to be the user profile chat unread. And then here we want to make this the user profile chat unread is empty. So now I don't even have to use his email. I can just say, I'm currently Marco, so I'm going to say, hey, Bobby Darrett, this is a mention. So, hey, Bobby Darrett, this is a mention. If we go back to the mentions and I switch to Bobby Darrett, you can see that I didn't use his email, but because his name was included in the message, it's popped up here. So that's a mention. And then now when I go back, there's no unread mentions. So that's actually very flexible. I never have thought about doing that, but yeah, that's pretty cool. Thank you for that suggestion.
Very good. I have a question.
Yes.
So every message creates a row in the table, right?
Yeah.
So it will eventually have its own limit. So you can't save all the messages that ever existed. So you kind of have to archive it if you want to keep them or delete them.
Yeah, I mean, you could use like big tables for this, I think. Or what you can do is you can create a query column that's based on a certain date and then add a button that deletes whatever is currently in that query column. So you could say, I'm going to query all the chat messages, but the filter is going to be the message was sent, more than 2 months ago or something like that. And then, so that will only show messages that are older than 2 months. And then on an admin screen or something like that, you can just have a button, because you can delete multiple records just with a button. You click delete, you set the action of the button as delete row, and you target that query column and it will delete those older messages. That's one way. Or you could set up a make integration if you wanted. So yeah,
cool,
so that's how I would do that. All right, let's get this AI chat. So the AI chat is similar, but there's a few things we need to look out for. So I'm going to add another table. And in fact, I could have just duplicated that, but that's okay. So I'll just say AI chat. So we need a few columns here. First, I'm going to add a row ID. I'm going to delete this starter column, and I'm going to add here a column called role. So this is it a system or a user? You know, when you're using AI, it has to define, okay, is this a message from the system, which is the AI, or the user, which is the person using it? I'm going to add a column to the right, and this is going to be timestamp. We're going to add another column to the right, and this is going to be message. And I believe there's one more column. In fact, this should be date time. We can use with seconds, that's fine. Role is cool, message is cool. We need one more add column to the right. This is going to be session ID. And then I believe we need, let me just see, I think I was playing around earlier with the AI. So, it's content, not message. And then we just need the author information, okay? So this should be content. And then we need author email, author name, and we can make this an email column. And this is going to be the author image. And we'll make this a basic image column. So we've got a few more details here. We've got role, timestamp, content, session ID, and then the author email, name, and image. So we'll jump onto the layout screen and we can begin building that out. So let's add a new screen. And this is going to be AI chat. And is there a little robot or something? Yeah, we'll just use this lightning bolt. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to add a chat component. And we're going to be targeting the chat table. The text is going to be the content, timestamp. Author photo is the image. Author name should be targeting the author name. And the author email should be targeting the author email. Now what we want to do is set the timestamp. So when we submit the message, we want it to submit the message. Save text is going to be content. Okay, so that's what we're putting here. We don't need the chat title, that's fine. So the role, because we're submitting it, we're going to be a user. Now the session ID is where it's important because everybody's going to be submitting to this table. Just like we did with the private chat, we need a way, number one, to make sure that we're only seeing messages that we're sending. And number two, the AI knows through all the messages, which messages it should be looking at in its history. Because if we're just submitting messages and this AI is looking at the table as a whole, it's going to be having context from like 20 different separate chats. So the history method will not work properly. So the role is user, timestamp is just the current time, and the session ID, we're going to keep it the same every time. And we're going to use just the user row ID. So you could use the email, but in this case, we're going to assign an actual ID. So it's going to know that in this big table of AI chat messages, the session or the messages that it wants to focus on is going to be the ID of the current user. So that'll make sense in a little bit. But if we go to, we'll set the email. We will, actually this should be, sorry, from the user profile. So user profile email, user profile name. I think this was, yeah, user profile, row ID. And then the user profile, user image. So this session ID is what we're going to be using to identify separate chats within this table. Now, what we want to do is on submit, we're going to go to integrations, OpenAI, complete chat with history. And so I'm going to add OpenAI, and I have a temporary API key somewhere here. I believe that's it. So message history is not going to be the user table. It's going to be the AI chat table. The columns we're going to select, if you're ever setting this up, I'm just going to turn this into a custom action so we can see it a bit better. So I'll zoom in. So if you're ever going to set this up, you'll have a look. You see here, it's saying, okay, select the table where the history of messages is going to be. And this is the new AI chat table. If you have a look here, it says each row needs to contain 4 columns. The content column, the role, the session ID, and the timestamp. So what we're going to do is we're going to select those columns, and we're going to say role, timestamp, content, and session ID. And we can uncheck these messages, or these columns, sorry. And we're going to save that. Now the prompt is going to be, please respond to this message, right? You can obviously make that more advanced. If you have a specific AI that you wanted to create, you could say, you are Wine GPT, you will be receiving questions about wine, please answer as a sommelier, blah, blah, blah. You could configure this however you want. So now the message is going to be the content, right? Because we've submitted the content. So the message is going to be the content. The session ID is going to be the session ID. So we're just matching these, and this just is slightly different. It just says content. And the reason we named it content is because that's what they named it here. So we're just setting this up. We're just matching it. And then the results, we need a place to store AI's response because it can't inject it into that table on the fly. So what we want to do is we're going to go here and we're going to go to the user table, and we're just going to say AI chat response. And we're just going to save that. It's just a text column. So if we go back to the actions, what was this? That was the, okay, let's name this. So, this is the view mention, and this is chat ask AI. So back here, it's going to take our message that we've just submitted as the content. It's going to do what we ask here. So please respond to the message. And the result, we're just going to plop the result into our user row so we can temporarily store it. And the reason we're temporarily storing it is because what we're going to do now is add a message, or add a row, sorry, to the AI chat table. So in this case, the table is AI chat. The role is going to be the system, because we've submitted ours as a user, and the row we're adding now is from the system. It's from the AI. So we're adding the system as the role. Timestamp is fine. the content, the timestamp actually should be the current date time, because this will generate, it might take a few seconds, and then it's going to add the row. And so we want the current time when it adds as the timestamp. The content is not going to be the content from what we submitted. It's going to be the content that pops up in the AI chat response that was generated here. And then session ID is going to be our user row ID, right? Because we're always going to have access to our row ID. So the session ID is going to be our row ID.
Do we need to wait for the condition?
No, because it won't continue until this this completes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
If we do ever run into it, we could just add a small wait for condition that says, AI is creating a response. But generally, it will not continue down the chain of actions until the other one is completed, I think. But we'll see. Especially with this one here. It won't continue until the response is registered. Now, in the author email, we can just say this is custom, right? So we can say bot@locode.com. The author name can be custom because it's the AI. So we can say, Buildy. Live Buildy is the name. Buildy bot. And the author image, well, I'll just find a nice chat bot icon.
You can do low-code computer guy.
Ah, yeah. That's a good idea. I'll go to lowcode.com. And I can copy my little icon. Actually, let's get the blue guy. He's cool. And that'll be the image. And that's all we need to set up as far as I'm concerned. So now, the moment of truth. We'll delete this empty chat because that doesn't do anything. And I'm going to say, hi there. What are some beautiful beaches I can visit on the Gold Coast, Australia? So, as far as I'm concerned, when I submit this message, there we go. We got the Buildy bot, and he's saying, hi there. There are several stunning beaches you can visit on the Gold Coast: Surfers Paradise, Burleigh Heads, Coolangatta, Main Beach, Snapper Rocks. Now, we want to make sure that it has history. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask it a question that it could only answer properly if it had history. So can you please suggest 2 more? So if it didn't have context, it would have no idea 2 more of what. Do you know what I mean? Like it would probably not know. But here it's saying Kirra and Rainbow Bay Beach. So it does know what we've asked previously. And the reason it does is because we've got that session ID, which is just my user ID. Now, if I switch to Elena, she's going to see this stuff too. So all we need to do for that is we set a filter, and because we use the row ID as the session ID, we're going to say, okay, only show messages where the session ID is the user profile, so the current user's row ID. So who was I using? Was I Bobby? Yeah. So Bobby's got his chat with AI. If we go to Elena, she can ask another question and it will be unique to her. So that is like
that's pretty
perfect
cool
timing. It's 10 a.m. So that was the full hour. Does anybody have any questions that I can answer as we're wrapping up here?
Doris was asking, is there a cost for OpenAI?
There is a cost. If you're using if you're using the cheaper model, the cost is actually very, very minimal. Very minimal. I'm using here this particular model, GPT 3.5 Turbo. It's very fast and it's very cheap. If you wanted a more advanced AI model, you can specify GPT-4. But unless people are sending, thousands of messages, it's quite affordable. And also you can set limits. Once you create an OpenAI account, you can set limits so you'll never accidentally blow out, thousands of dollars. So, yeah, hopefully that answers the question. But it's not too expensive. It will cost updates though. But yeah.
Also, to do the AI integration, you need to go to Chat AI, OpenAI, and set up the separate account and then integrate it with Glide to use it.
Yeah, I think I have some videos on how to do that.
Yeah, I think.
Actually, in the live build I did with Glide, with Andy from Glide, I actually went through it, how to set up OpenAI. So I can show you that link maybe later. Maybe Nat can post it in the when we post the replay. She can post the links to how to set up OpenAI. But basically, you create an OpenAI account, openai.com. You can view. Actually, I could probably show it. It's not. It doesn't show the keys. So once you create the OpenAI account, you'll be create a key. So you can create a new secret key, and you can call this, Glide Chatbot. And when you create the key, I can just create it now. You're going to copy this. So it's created the key. You're going to copy it. Make sure you hold on to this because it doesn't exist once you close this. You click done. You go back to Glide, and I'll share this tab. And then in the settings, in integrations, you add OpenAI, and it will ask you to paste that key here. And then that's all you have to do. You just paste it here, and then you'll have access to OpenAI. So, yeah, I'm just going to delete this.
Sharon was raising her hand.
Yeah?
Quick question.
What's up?
Can we have at the blue bar where we have actually chat and everything, can we have each day like a history and trash icon beside it if, for instance, we want to delete it daily or something like that by the instructor instead of.
What's this for? Is this for old messages you don't want anymore, or?
Yeah, for for instance, if for the course, each course has their own chat. So yeah. I'm wondering if we can have the history here, and instead of actually they have because they don't have access to the back end, I want to have the here some kind of icon to actually delete the because I don't know how much they're going to use it, and I want to be able to actually delete the history.
Yeah, sure. I think that's not a problem. If we go to, let's just use the group chat as an example, right? We have 59 minutes ago, 58, 31, etc. If we add a screen, custom screen, and let's just make this the delete history, and then you could obviously make this only visible to admins or whatever. But what you could do is you could show the data grid of the comments, and you can allow not edit or add, but you can allow deleting. So old messages. So what you can do is you can sort by the timestamp, the oldest to the newest. So I can actually just come in one by one if I want and delete old messages. So that's the first way. The second way would be to automatically do it based on certain criteria. So for example, we go here and I'm going to make this 2023. 2023. And then what you would do is on the, maybe on the user table, you could do it, or on a settings table or something, but you can basically just create like an old messages filter where we're querying the chat and we're filtering to time is before we would need another table. But if I save that, add a column to the right, we say chat date specifier. That is the worst spelling. Okay. Specifier. And we can just make it a date. So we'll say that it's before the this row chat date specifier. Now it's empty because so nothing will show there. But I believe we can like add a date. So I'm going to select a date and I'll just select this. And instead of just all of the comments, we could just show, for example, the old messages. So these are the ones from 2023 because they're before this date that I've specified. And then we can allow them to delete individually, but we could also probably like bulk delete. I think it'll work based on this. If not, we can still tweak it. We bulk delete, and we want to data delete row chat old messages, and it's going to say, watch out, this can delete a lot of stuff at once. And it's like, that's okay, we know. So when I bulk delete, it's deleted all of those old messages that were in 2023, and we've left them these. So that's one way of doing it. But there's many ways you can do it, but it's all from the front end. So yeah. And if I select today's date or a date in the future, you see those messages will pop up and we can delete them. And you might want to have some sort of like confirmation before you just let them delete stuff. But yeah, the process remains the same. So
I have one more question from Doris. Would it be possible to use Chat AI inside the app to look at the data inside the app to answer questions specific to the data in the app?
You can. There used to be a functionality where you could ask a question about a table. I don't know if they still have this. OpenAI answer question. So you can. So you can ask a question about a table. And basically what you'll do here is you'll say, okay, the table I want to ask a question about, let's say we want to ask about users. We could specify users. And then we can select the columns. And the row specifier we don't need. And the additional context, we can just say, this is a table about wine, blah, 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 blah. So that's one way you can do it. You can use this configure action, which is ask a question about a table. Then you have to, because you want to limit the amount of information that it has to process. If you include all of the tables, all of the columns, it's going to take it quite a long time for it to process that data. So you would configure it to only include columns that have relevant data. So, like for example, in this case, maybe in the chat table, we just want to know, I don't know, the response. This is the user table, so it's not set up correctly. But if it was the comments, we would select only the things that are relevant. So maybe we only need the message, so you could ask a question and it would go through all the messages. Just because if you overload it with a lot of information, it's a lot to process. You could have 1,000 rows, and if you have 10 columns, that's 10,000 pieces of data that it has to process. So
and sometimes when the data is too big to process, it just gonna times out and there will be no response at all.
Yeah. So to answer your question, yes, definitely possible. You can just use that little action that I showed you there. Ask a question about a table, and then you ask the question, you run the action, and then it will respond accordingly in the chat.
Fantastic, Marco. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Thank you guys for joining. I really appreciate it. I hope that was valuable. I feel like it went quite smoothly, and there's lots of different use cases. There's the group chat, the private chat, the AI. There's all different things. Deleting old messages. So thank you all for joining. The replay should be live later today, and I'll see you in the next one.
Great to see you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
We'll
Marco.
see you later.